The rain fell in relentless sheets, drumming against the wooden rooftops and turning the dirt streets of the small western town into slick rivers of mud. Lily's boots were caked, her dress clinging uncomfortably to her skin, and every step felt heavier than the last. Clutched tightly to her chest was a small, shivering puppy, a bundle of fur so fragile it seemed the rain itself might wash him away. His tiny paws slipped in the mud, and his dark, wet eyes looked up at her with trust and love, completely unaware of the storm raging around them. She had made the decision hours ago, but walking toward the rich cowboy's ranch, every nerve in her body screamed against it. The dog, Max, had been her companion through lonely nights and heartbreak, and the thought of leaving him behind twisted her stomach into knots. Yet, the bills were mounting, her landlord had sent yet another threatening letter, and her job barely covered a month of rent. There was no room for indulgence. She couldn't take care of him the way he deserved, not anymore. The cowboy's ranch house came into view, rising tall and imposing against the gray sky. The wood was polished and immaculate, a testament to the man's wealth and meticulous nature. Lanterns cast warm, golden pools of light that seemed to glow through the storm, highlighting the path to the front door. Lily hesitated at the gate, heart hammering in her chest. She had heard the stories. He was a man of few words, stern, unyielding, and unapproachable. Some said he didn't like visitors, and certainly didn't deal with stray animals. And yet, something in her desperation forced her forward. A shadow moved in the doorway, and there he was. Broad-shouldered, tall, with weathered features that spoke of years under the harsh sun, and eyes that were sharp and assessing. His hat shielded most of his face, but even through the brim, Lily could feel the intensity of his gaze. The puppy stirred in her arms, sensing the strange presence, and let out a tiny whimper. "Please," Lily's voice trembled as she lifted Max higher, offering him like a fragile treasure. "Take my puppy. I can't keep him. I can't." Her words broke against the sound of the rain, but she kept them flowing, desperate for some sliver of mercy. The cowboy didn't move immediately. He simply looked at the small creature in her arms, his eyes softening just a fraction. He crouched slightly, tilting his head, as if trying to understand not just the dog, but the woman standing before him. "You sure you can't keep him?" he asked, his voice low, rough like gravel, but carrying a surprising gentleness beneath the surface. Lily shook her head, tears slipping freely down her cheeks, mixing with the raindrops. I can't. I don't have enough. Not for him. He deserves better." Her words faltered as she tried to choke back sobs. Max nuzzled her neck, sensing her pain, letting out a soft whine that echoed against the wooden porch. The cowboy extended one hand slowly, massive and calloused, to touch the puppy's damp fur. "He's a scrappy little thing," he murmured. "Not the type to stay in one place for long, huh?" Lily watched as he ran his fingers through the tiny creature, careful yet firm, and she felt a strange warmth spreading in her chest. It was as if the presence of this man, so commanding, so solid, somehow made the chaos of her life pause for a moment. I don't want him to suffer," she whispered, hugging Max tighter. Her eyes flicked to the cowboy, searching for judgment, for rejection, but instead, she found something else. Something unreadable, and for a fleeting second, she wondered if leaving Max here might be the first step toward finding a place where they could both belong. The cowboy straightened slowly, his gaze still on the little dog. He didn't say yes, and he didn't say no. He just stood there, silent, letting the rain fall around them like a curtain, leaving Lily to wonder if she had made the right choice by showing up at his door. The cowboy's eyes softened as he looked at the trembling little dog, but then, unexpectedly, he turned his gaze toward Lily. She could feel the weight of it, as if he were trying to see through the layers of fear and uncertainty she had wrapped around herself for years. Her hands tightened around Max, whose tiny body quivered with both cold and anxiety. Lily's chest felt tight, every heartbeat echoing in the tense silence that had settled between them. The cowboy bent down slowly, his movements deliberate, careful not to startle the puppy. He ran a calloused hand over Max's damp fur, and the little dog leaned into his touch, letting out a soft whine of contentment. "He's got spirit," the cowboy said, his voice low and rough, but edged with warmth she hadn't expected. "Strong-willed, like someone else I know." Lily's heart skipped a beat at the veiled reference, unsure if he meant her or if she was imagining it. I don't know how to explain, she stammered, the words catching in her throat. I can barely take care of myself. How could I? She trailed off, her gaze dropping to the muddy ground. She couldn't look him in the eyes. They were too steady, too certain, like they could see every fault she was trying to hide. You think you're not enough, he said quietly, almost as if reading her mind. His eyes didn't judge, didn't mock. They simply held hers, grounding her in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. But maybe you are. Lily blinked back tears, confused by the sudden softness in this man who everyone said was cold and unapproachable. I'm not. I can't, she began, but he held up a hand, stopping her. You don't get to run from it just yet, he said, his tone firm but not cruel. He straightened, the rain glistening off his broad shoulders, and took a slow step closer. If he's here, you're here. You don't get to leave him, and you don't get to leave yourself. Lily froze, the words sinking in like stones in her chest. She had come here expecting to hand over the dog and walk away, leaving him behind in a safer place. But now it seemed the cowboy wasn't interested in just the puppy. He wanted her, too. And the thought made her panic. I can't stay, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I need him to be safe. That's all. Max nuzzled her neck, as if sensing her turmoil, his tiny paws pawing at her arms. You stay too, the cowboy said again, more firmly this time, his voice carrying over the sound of the rain. It wasn't an order, exactly, it was something heavier, something that implied connection, responsibility, and perhaps even hope. He needs you, and maybe you need him. Maybe you need this. Lily's lips trembled as she processed his words. She had spent so long trying to run from life, from attachments, from anything that might hurt her. And now, here was this man, a stranger, yet not, telling her to stop running, to stop hiding, to step into a place she hadn't thought she could belong. The puppy barked softly, breaking the tension, and the cowboy chuckled under his breath. It was a rare sound, warm and almost human, and for a moment, Lily allowed herself to imagine a different life, a life where she wasn't alone, where she wasn't constantly fighting just to survive. Okay, she said finally, her voice small but steady. She looked up at him, meeting his eyes. I'll stay, but only if he's safe. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving the valley sparkling under a soft, golden sunlight. The air was fresh, scented with damp earth and the faint sweetness of wildflowers, and the mud of the previous day had dried into rich, fragrant soil. Lily stepped onto the porch, Max leaping out of her arms to run across the wide wooden planks, barking joyfully as if he had never known fear or cold. She laughed, a clear, ringing sound that surprised even herself, and felt the tension of the past few days start to melt away. The cowboy emerged from the house, his boots thudding softly against the porch as he approached. He carried a steaming mug of coffee, the aroma of roasted beans mixing with the smell of hay and wood smoke drifting from the barn. His broad shoulders looked less intimidating in the gentle light of morning, and his eyes, which had seemed so stern in the rain, now held something softer, almost approving. Morning, he said, his voice low and warm, carrying a hint of amusement. Morning, Lily replied, smiling shyly. She held out the puppy, who wriggled excitedly in her arms. He's happy. He looks it, the cowboy said, crouching slightly to stroke Max's head. The puppy leapt into his lap, tail wagging furiously. Lily watched as he laughed quietly, a rare sound that seemed to belong to him alone. It made her chest ache in a way that was unfamiliar, sweet, gentle, and full of possibility. For a moment, silence stretched between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was a silence full of understanding, the kind that comes when two people have shared something and spoken, something profound. Lily realized she had expected rejection, coldness, or even disdain when she left Max at his door. Instead, she had found patience, warmth, and something she couldn't quite name, a sense that maybe, just maybe, she had found a place she could call home. Thank you, she said softly, almost shyly. For not turning me away. The cowboy tipped his hat back, revealing the faintest smile. I didn't turn you away. You didn't come here to be left behind, and neither did he. You two belong here, at least for now. And maybe longer. His words weren't loud, but they carried weight, a promise hidden beneath the casual tone. Lily's heart skipped. For so long, she had been running, from her past, from responsibilities, even from love. But now, standing here in the warm glow of morning, she felt an unfamiliar sense of belonging. Max barked, jumping into her arms again, licking her cheek as if sealing a silent agreement. The puppy's joy was infectious, and Lily laughed again, feeling a lightness in her chest that she hadn't felt in months. The cowboy leaned against the railing, watching them, the rising sun casting long shadows across the porch. "Looks like you're part of the ranch now," he said, his voice calm but certain. Lily felt a shiver, not of fear, but of anticipation, excitement, and a cautious hope. I think I could get used to it," she admitted, her voice quiet but full of sincerity. The cowboy nodded, as if acknowledging not just her words, but the courage it had taken to say them. The puppy yipped happily, tugging at her sleeve, and Lily bent down to scoop him up, holding him close. The cowboy watched, a soft smile playing at the corners of his mouth, and for the first time in a long while, Lily didn't feel the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. She felt safe. She felt home. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, painting the valley in gold, Lily realized that leaving the past behind wasn't about running away, it was about stepping into something new. Something real. Something that promised laughter, warmth, and unexpected family. And as Max curled up in her arms, and the cowboy leaned casually against the railing, she finally understood that sometimes, the family you need most isn't found in the life you planned, it's found in the people and moments you least expect. For Lily, for Max, and even for the cowboy. This was the beginning of something bigger, something brighter, and something worth staying for. And for the first time in a long time, she was ready to stay. Only if. Only if what? He asked, raising an eyebrow, though the corner of his mouth twitched in amusement. Only if. He's happy, she finished, hugging Max tighter. The cowboy nodded slowly, as if accepting a silent truce. He'll be happy. And so will you, eventually, he said, tipping his hat back and offering a faint smile. Lily felt a flicker of something she hadn't felt in years, relief, maybe, or hope. She wasn't sure yet, but for the first time in a long while, the fear of leaving her past behind felt a little lighter.